Welcome to Studio Hockey. My name is Ernst Baert. My co-host for today is Floris Geerts, hockey commentator for Belgian TV. Our guests for today are Jason McCracken, CEO at the FIH, as well as Marc Coudron, president for the Belgian Hockey Federation and board member at the FIH.
The 5 topics for today will all be closely related to the first one, and that's a big one, the future of hockey. Will we be able to cram this into 5 minutes only? I doubt it, but let's give it a try. And secondly, we will discuss the new home and away league for a select group of national teams to be launched in 2019, followed by our third topic, the Hockey India League or HIL, and another recent game changer, the European Hockey League or EHL. And finally, for our 5th topic, we will be talking about the influence of all of the above on what we in Europe consider to be the foundation for our game of hockey, our national club competitions. So by now, I guess you're all thinking, when is this guy going to shut up and let the others join in? So before you start zapping away, let me pass on the microphone to Floris, who will be hosting the rest of our show. Floris, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ernst. Let's start with Jason. The FIH named its strategy for 2014-2024 the Hockey Revolution. So why did hockey need a revolution?
I think firstly, the future of hockey is very, very exciting, and we as hockey fans should be very optimistic about what's about to happen. The reason that we needed a revolution is that our game became incredibly cluttered and very complex. We had our World League events, which run through right at the bottom. They ran up to our semi-finals, then they ran into our World League finals. We had a product called the Champions Trophy, which of course is a tournament we're all very familiar with. But sitting underneath that, we had the Champions Challenge. We also had the European Continental Federations. We had the World Cup. We had an Olympic Games. And in other words, it was a very cluttered and quite complex array of events that have been sort of grown up over time. And to be fair, even hockey fans like myself, found it hard to explain where everything fits in. Certainly, the wider community, the broadcast community, our TV and digital partners, and even the broader sports fan, people who love sport, but they found this whole hockey world quite confusing. The second thing is that we were playing a tournament format. So picture a game of Australia playing Ireland in Argentina. I mean, not many people in Argentina would come to watch that game because there was no sort of necessity to it, and from a broadcast perspective, it was on in very unusual time slots for both countries. So we wanted to build a new suite of events. We wanted it to be quite radical, and we wanted to have hockey being played at home. At the same time, we also have got to maintain focus on the development of hockey outside the core sort of top countries. And I'm sure we'll touch on it today, but it was important that we made sure that hockey was available to everybody. We have 142 national associations which make up the FIH. We're one of the largest global sports bodies in the world. We've got huge breadth. So we wanted to develop hockey, but not only at the top, but also at the lower level. So in effect, to try and grow the game around the world. And we felt that having a revolution was a good way to start.
Can you maybe, in short, describe what this revolution will be?
So the key things there are we're going to have a new set of events. We'll talk about those in a second. We're going to have events that are going to be attractive for television, broadcast, and the digital media. We're going to increase the marketing of our events. And we want commercial partners or sponsors who are going to support that. So four key objectives.
So, Marc, what role do national federations play in this plan, do you think?
Well, as a president of the Belgian Federation, I think we really have to be in this new home and away structure because it's really important. And like we have shown during the replay of the final of the Olympic Games, it's really important. It's really fantastic for the players to play in front of their own audience, that their own public, in front of maybe for us it was 9,500 people or something like this. So if I think it will be a success. Of course, it's always a challenge to organize that, but I think it will be a big success to do that. And I totally agree with what Jason just said about the lack of spectators for top games. And we had that last year in Belgium, for example, that was 2 years ago in Dragons, when Australia was playing against Great Britain. There was maybe 300-400 people watching the game. That's not normal. That's not normal. So the home and away is really something drastic for the evolution of hockey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jason, you said the revolution focuses on commercialization, broadcasting the sport as such. But the previous years, FIH focused on developing the sport in several regions. Isn't that a main focus anymore?
Well, I think as I mentioned before, we as a sports body have both. But we have to drive this top down. So we have to have kids who see hockey on TV. They see stars. They see people who like some of the stars behind me in this image. They're people who are recognized globally as sports athletes. Look, I think of course we need to focus on development. But what we're talking about here with this home and away league, and we'll get into it in more detail. We're talking about increasing the television broadcast of hockey times 10 based on what we've been doing before. So if we end up with 9 teams of men and 9 teams of women, we're talking about 144 games of hockey. Every one of those games of hockey will be played at home, i.e. there will be at least one home team to fill the stadium, okay? And then they will go away and play a second game away. So this concept of playing in front of empty stadiums will cease to exist. We talk about being big, packed, bold, and loud. That's the sort of language we're using. And we get the energy that we need to make very exciting spectacles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, Jason, if I can have my moment. We have 2 kinds of hockey. This is what we're seeing already now, and maybe in the future even more. We will have the hockey played by national teams, international hockey, but played by national teams, by countries. And we have those local teams, call it a club like we do in Europe, call it a franchise team like they call it in India, or the Premier League in South Africa, or there are different kind of local leagues as well. And it's going to be a very difficult task managing the calendar for both those kinds of types of hockey. How are we going to do that?
I think the reality is that, and we've talked about this, of course, to the national associations who have got incredibly strong, domestic leagues, and you have named those. For some of those leagues, they are looking to shift where they're going to be played. For example, Hockey India League will move to the end of the calendar year because, in effect, home and away will operate in the first 6 months. However, there is room, and we believe there is room in the schedule to have both an international tournament or event running, league running for 6 months, and a domestic competition. Because we've done some initial scheduling about how this might work. There's going to be sufficient windows where the European teams, for example, will be based in Europe, and traveling teams will be coming to Europe. Let's pick an obvious one like Australia, for example. So they would come through probably in the mid to latter half of the first half of the year, and there would be an opportunity for people to play both in their club event and also in their national team. We understand that, and so we, from a home and away league perspective, have increased the numbers of people in the squad to 32. So you can have a national squad of 32, and you might have one particular match. Let's just pick Australia again, playing Belgium. It's a key game for Belgium, and they'll have their absolute best team lining up for that. Another team, possibly a perceived weaker team, they could release some players to play in their EHL or even with Dragons or with their club team. So we think there is space. I think it's going to be a big challenge. One thing the FIH have done is we're working collaboratively with the national associations. And once we've selected the countries who are in the home and away league, we're setting up a league management panel of which the national associations will be part of that. They'll be part of the governance administration of the league. So therefore, it's in their interest and our interest to make sure it's successful.
So will those home and away league games, will they be played in the weekend or during midweeks?
We think that it'll be a mixture. It feels like it'll be certainly one weekend match and possibly a Tuesday or a Wednesday evening. But what we want to do, what our broadcasters are saying to us, tell us when hockey will be on TV. So our fans get to learn. They get to know that on a Wednesday night at 7 p.m. there's going to be a hockey game on in Europe. Or on a Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock there'll be a hockey match in the Southern Hemisphere. So when we're doing the scheduling, we'll be talking with our broadcast partners to make sure we lock down the schedule, and hockey fans know that they'll be able to tune in, whether that's using an online digital format, which increasingly is becoming very, very important for hockey, or your traditional television linear format.
So you don't see any conflict between club hockey and national team hockey?
Look, I think there's going to. I can't say there'll be no conflict. I think there's room for both, and when we sit down with the national associations who are finalised in the league, we'll be able to work that through in partnership with them. But it won't be perfect. But as I say, there will be some opportunities. As I say, Hockey India have decided to keep a clear window. And they will be in 2019 moving Hockey India League to November, December in the calendar.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about less about the home and the weekly league now. What would be the role of 5 against 5 hockey, which was promoted on the Youth Olympics? Will it replace eventually 11 versus 11?
Look, I don't think so. Certainly in the next couple of cycles around Hockey Fives. I think Hockey Fives is a very exciting product, and I want to see it. I want to see us continue to evolve it and experiment with it. There's been some discussions at our executive board meeting about having both genders playing in a Hockey Fives type tournament. So we might see the continental federations run an event like that. I mean, how exciting that would be for our game. We have our equal genders, men and women playing hockey together in an international competition. So these are the sort of, we see Hockey Fives as our innovation product. We can experiment with rules and we can do some fun things with it. It sits nicely in that youth slot, I think, really, really well. And it also is a lower cost format for countries that possibly can't afford to travel with a squad of 16, 18 plus support people. We're talking probably 25 staff and athletes, for a team. So we're excited about Hockey Fives. We won't be launching a major Hockey Fives sort of tournament format because we are focused on home and away in the short term. But we would like to work and look at maybe some smaller events and continue to evolve Hockey Fives as an exciting, innovative part of our game.
So, but for the traditionalists among us, we can rest assured that Hockey 11 versus 11 will be on the agenda of FIH, will be on the agenda for national federations, and will be on the Olympic agenda for the next 10, 20, 30 years?
10, 20, 30 years. I think you'll be a very brave man sitting in my chair to project that. I can tell you that certainly for the next cycle, Tokyo and beyond, whether that's LA or Paris, and clearly we'll find out that later in the year it will be the 11-side format. Certainly home and away will be the 11-side format. For the short to medium term, we're going to continue with the traditional game and then use Hockey Fives to experiment, to do some different things, as I mentioned before.
Mark, is a federation like the Belgian Federation, or maybe from others in Europe as well, where there's a big tradition already in 11 versus 11, will there also be experimenting with this format of Hockey 5 versus 5?
Not yet in Belgium. There is no pitch, for example, really use pitch on Hockey 5, but maybe in the future. It's actually we do a kind of Hockey 5, but not a real Hockey 5 with our youth. And the 6 and the 7 and 8 or the 9, they are playing in a shorter on a shorter field, but a real Hockey 5, like with the rules of Hockey 5, is not yet the possibility. We don't have the possibility for the moment in Belgium to organize that, but why not in the future? But like Jason said, I think it's really important for the development of hockey everywhere in the world, even in Eastern Europe, for example, or in some islands in Pacific Ocean or other places. It's really important to develop hockey. But I'm not sure that in all countries, I mean the Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, for the moment, we are struggling to have new pitches. It's not yet the possibility. We don't have the possibility for the moment to build other kind of fields.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I just, if I can, I just received an email from the Belgian Federation that the women's coach just stopped. What's your comment on that, Marc?
That's another comment. So yeah, that's right. We decided yesterday to stop with Agate, but there will be for sure more news from Adam, who is now the new technical director of the Belgian Federation in the coming minutes or the coming months, coming days. Sorry, but well, yeah, it was an important decision, and yeah, it's maybe usual words, but I really like to thank Agate for the time with the Belgian team. But now we think that it was better for the team to go to another place and to go with other people. So it's a new way of how can I say that of development for the women team.
Okay, thank you for the quick response. Let's talk about the home and away league. Jason, for those who don't already know, can you explain in short what kind of tournament the home and away league will be?
Okay, so firstly, it's a global league with between 7 and 9 national associations. And I say between 7 and 9 because we're currently going through an application process. And at the June executive board meeting, we will confirm exactly how many teams are. But let's just, for the sake of this conversation, say that we have 9 men and 9 women. They will play a one-off match at home against the other 8 countries. Then they will travel away to the other side of the world and replay that game in a one-off match. That format will then collect points, and the top 4 will play a grand final in about June, July, in the midst of the summer. The winner of the grand final being our home and away champion. I think the other thing I'd say is that at this stage we will be launching the home and away series just before the World League semi-finals in London. We're still confirming the dates. We will be announcing the names of the teams of the national associations participating. We'll be launching the new brand of what actually the home and away is called, because at the moment it's a working title, and we have a very exciting marketing campaign and a new brand. We'll also be announcing who our broadcast digital media partners and our sponsors are. So at the moment we're working hard on all those things, bringing all those things together, but in a few short months after the executive board meeting in June, we'll be launching all of that information will be out in the marketplace. It's a lot of exciting stuff and lots to look forward to.
So at the moment, there are 18 countries in the application process. What are the selection criteria to become one of those 7 or 9 teams?
It's a really good question. So we are focusing on obviously the performance, so that they have to be a top 12 ranked country, so they have to be competitive, but they have to be commercially viable. So this is a commercial product. We are looking to get very strong support, and we have already had some from our broadcast partners and our sponsors, potential sponsors. So we've got to make sure that the mix is right, and then of course we're looking for global reach to have countries, for example, like the USA women who've done extremely well. As part of this league, as well as the more traditional sort of big powerhouse hockey countries.
Marc, do you see Belgium or a home and away league without Belgium?
No, of course not. I hope Belgium will be in with the men and also with the women. It's not yet. We don't have decided yet what we're gonna do, but that's really what we want to. Yeah, we want to be in, of course, because I'm sure it's a crucial moment for the development of hockey. And if Belgium is not in this, or if a top country is not in this, it will have some delay to come back. And no, it's really crucial for us, for the men for sure, and for the women also.
What are the benefits of competing? Sorry, Lins. So, Marc, what are?
And I just wanted to add to that, because you're mentioning, Marc, also if you're not in, then you might have a problem catching up or staying involved with really top hockey.
Yeah.
Jason or Marc also, what will be the possibilities for those countries that do not get selected, that are not in those top 9? Will there be a second tier kind of home and away league, or something they can work in to aspire to get into the real home and away league later on?
It's a really important question, because remember I mentioned this concept of development. So we have, as part of the new event portfolio, so we look at all our events. We've got our home and away league sitting at the top, but the next tier is going to be a revised format of the current World League arrangement. So World League 1 and World League 2, that's being reformatted. So, countries from, very small countries from Thailand to Venezuela to Samoa could come in at the bottom and follow their dreams and potentially make their way through to what's going to be it's going to be reformatted, but potentially could still qualify for both the Olympics and the World Cup. So we've made sure the doors are closed. And also, we're also considering that possibly a home and away league is a 4-year cycle. But if we start with, say, 7 teams, we will look at having teams join after 2 years. But we think we're already oversubscribed. We're pretty confident we're going to end up with 9 men and 9 women's teams in the home and away.
But in the future, it won't be possible to have a second division, let's say, something like that.
Look, I think it is possible in the next round. And I think if this is highly successful, potentially we could have a second tier and then potentially have a promotion relegation concept. We haven't gone down that track at this stage. We want to launch the premier event. Remember, we've removed Champions Trophy, Champions Challenge, we've removed World League Finals. We've cleared the decks to create space for the home and away league. And from what we're hearing from our broadcast partners, TV, digital media and sponsors, is they get it, they like it, they love the fact that the hockey's going to be played in front of home crowds. They love the fact that we're increasing the amount of coverage times 10. They love the fact that we'll be able to tell a story over a long period of time. So rather than sort of arrive in Ireland, play for 2 weeks and disappear, and then pop up again in Australia for another tournament, that every year, for 5 to 6 months of the year, they can tell the story. So we can run online, Facebook pieces. We can run the sort of conversations that we're having here in this format, because we know that hockey is being consumed more and more in this digital online format. And one of the very interesting statistics coming out of Rio is that hockey has gone from being last in London in terms of its digital presence. We're now 3rd of all Olympic sports, behind football and athletics. So hockey has done something amazing because in this digital online space in the last 4 years. And so we know that we're capturing that hockey consumers are loving this new digital format in terms of how to engage with our game.
Yeah. One of the front runners, if I might, Marc, and then you can join in here as well. But one of the front runners for this digital and being on the new media and showing hockey in a new way was the European Hockey League, the EHL, which started some 10 years ago now. Still, the EHL has had some difficulties in finding and keeping their sponsors and finding new sponsors and growing the format. Is there place in the bigger event portfolio for a format like the EHL? Marc, what do you think about this?
I'm sure, and it's also what the players want, because EHL is not only played by European players, but by world players. We have in the Netherlands, in Germany, in Spain, in Belgium, a little bit less maybe in England, but we have so many international players. I mean, out of Europe, from Argentina, from New Zealand, from Australia, and so on, from South Africa. So that's so important for the players to play at the top of their club, at the top of the European competitions. So yes, I think what I really appreciate, and I say that in front of him, but what I really appreciate with Jason is the openness, or the open-minded of Jason. We are now in a new cyclus. I mean, we want to find win-win solutions for everybody, and I'm sure there are places for everybody. Hill, EHL, home and away, national competitions in Europe. We can find solutions, and for example, the change in the calendar for to organize the away from Europe in January, February, during normally the stages outside. That's a good period to go to Australia, to New Zealand, to India, to Argentina, and to have a gap at the end of the championship. So after mid-May, to play lots of games and still have a few competitions game between. So in April, May, March, April, May, to have 4 or 5 games. It's actually not different as now, because now we still have a few fair games against maybe Great Britain, who is coming to Belgium, or Belgium, who is going to Germany, or maybe we play other nations. So it's not so different. What will be really good, it's that we can organize the championship. We can organize, because the calendar will be fixed. We know from the start that we're going to play against the Netherlands, to say something, on the first Wednesday of March, to say something. Each year, we know that from the beginning. And that's really good, because what we miss for the moment is actually a kind of an easy calendar for the teams, for the clubs. Now, if tomorrow the Netherlands wants to play against Belgium in April, maybe we're going to say, okay, we're going to find something. No, it's fixed. We know from the start that in 19, 20, 21, and 22, we know that Belgium will be playing the Netherlands on the first Wednesday of March, of April, something, doesn't matter when, but we know that. And so the calendar can be organized with this in mind.
Yeah, but a very good point that Floris made to me earlier today is that a lot of the players who are not in national teams, but are top players in the local leagues, at the top clubs, but just don't make the national teams for whatever reason, for them playing in the EHL is the ultimate dream.
Of course, and for the other teams, I mean, for top players, but not from the top 3 of the championship, the national competition is also the top for them. So we have really to find a place for everybody, and I'm sure it's possible. I'm sure it's possible. Okay, maybe the best calendar won't be easy for everybody, but I'm sure we can manage that, and we can fine-tune that.
Mm-hmm. Well, going back to the calendar then, immediately today was announced that the next World Cup, for instance, in 2018, will be held in India, in Bhubaneswar, where there's lovely crowds. So we all love that. We love to see the big crowds and the big and loud crowds, Jason. But for the timing of that major event, it's one of the 2 major events in the world of hockey. Is now announced for the end of November, the beginning of December, which will mean that, well, Marc, you will know as well, national team coaches usually ask for a period of more or less 6 weeks at least, where they want to have their national team to prepare for a major event. That will mean that our national club competition will hold from beginning of November, or beginning of half of October already. How can we fit this in?
May I have an answer, Jason, or do you want to answer, Jason? Okay. once more, we have to be creative. Maybe we have to begin this year. So I mean, in 18, maybe at the end of August. Maybe we have to anticipate a little bit the calendar and to play maybe a few double weeks, Wednesday, Sunday, or something like this, or Friday, Wednesday. But in the past, it was also like this. I remember I played the '94 World Cup in Sydney, and it was from, I think, the 10th of November till the end of November. So it was worse because we stopped the competition at the beginning of even, I think it was the beginning of October. I played also another tournament, qualification tournament for the Olympics of Athens, and it was in the middle of March. So it was also a problem. It's not new, and now actually, with the exception of a World Cup, it will be easier, I'm sure, to organize everything, because from a few years before, and even we know for the World Cup 2022, it will be known that the dates will be fixed. I don't know when, and I don't know when and where, but it will be fixed with a few years before. So it will be easier to organize everything. Of course, the ideal calendar doesn't exist. That's for sure. But maybe we have to think about new periods, and maybe the end of August could be one.
Jason, is the men's World Cup situating in end of November, beginning of December? Will be that a fixed moment for the World Cup in the future as well?
We are trying to have a more stable calendar. So we now know that with the home and away league, so we know what the next 6 years look like. And to answer Mark's question is that we'll be inviting applications for the 2022 World Cup in October this year. So by next year, you will know. We're hoping that by the World Cups, you will actually know where we'll be in 4 years' time. Now, the FIH historically has never looked that far ahead. But we are hearing from fans and broadcasters and athletes and high performance directors that they want more certainty of the schedule and the calendar. So we're listening to that, and we are planning far further ahead.
Then a major tournament which exists now is the Hockey India League. You said earlier that they will have a fixed slot. When will that be? Because I read somewhere that it will be September, but it would be...
from 2019, so not 18, because 18 is the World Cup. 2019, they're moving the Hockey India League to the end of the calendar year, so November, December.
Okay, and there will be a fixed slot.
They will move it. They'll keep it in that slot. Yes.
Are there other tournaments who also get a fixed slot, other domestic leagues?
Well, look, we're not dictating the schedule outside FIH events. So the FIH, I suppose, sits at the top of the pyramid. We have the Olympic Games, we have the World Cup, and we now have this home and away league, which will run in the first half of the year. And then there'll be other tournaments that will sit around that. So we're not dictating that. I think we've been very clear about that. And we're inviting national associations to come and join us. And what's pleasing is that they are excited about what we're doing, and we're working very collaboratively together.
Yeah, the Hockey India League was so important for Indian hockey. Has it also contributed to the world?
Look, I think so. I was fortunate enough to go to the Hockey India League this year. It was one of the first events I attended as the new CEO. And I was impressed by the quality. I mean, I've been involved in hockey since the Olympics in 2000. So I've seen a lot of hockey games in my life. I was very impressed by the quality, the intensity. They have some new innovations around the points for goals, field goals versus penalty corners. I really like that sort of aspect. It totally changed the dynamic of the game. They had good crowds. They had great TV production. And the international players added real sparkle to what was happening. And talking to Roland Altmans, the high performance director, the Indian coach, he says, look, these Indian players, they're not intimidated by these world stars anymore. They play with them, they tackle them, and I think you're right. I have to give India hockey huge credit, because it has no doubt improved the quality of their national team and the quality of their competition. Look, they've taken a risk and they've succeeded. So, I think it's an important part of the development of the game.
But it's especially beneficial for India, because if I may blunt, I think the quality of the game isn't as high as in the Netherlands or in Belgium.
That's your very personal opinion. It's certainly not the quality of the hockey that I saw in India 4 or 5 weeks ago. The final was incredibly competitive, and the semi-finals equally so. So, look, I actually think the standard is very high. And, perhaps you can get some guests from the international athletes and players who play in the Hockey India League and ask them the same question. But just like European hockey over the last, say 20 years has really benefited by the quality of the competition between, not only club but national leagues, and being able to drive across the border and play, Germany versus Holland, Belgium versus England, Spain versus Holland. That's no doubt that has improved the quality of hockey. And what we're seeing is that in India, it's certainly improved the national team. So I think, I just think more good quality, high quality hockey helps the game. It markets, it promotes the game. And you need to realize that Hockey India was a big risk for them. They raised a lot of money. They got star behind it from a production perspective, and they've been able to pay their athletes and their officials, and they've brought a new level of professionalism to hockey, and some of our top athletes globally have benefited from that.
So, Marc, do you consider the Hockey India League as a competitor to the domestic league in Belgium?
A competitor?
Yes. Is it more a rival of the Belgian league, or is it something which can exist together or be beneficial for each other?
Once more, I think it's beneficial. I think it's once more a win-win solution to find for this. It won't be easy if it's in December. It's maybe better than in January, actually, because otherwise it will be during the home and away first round. I mean, the first part of the home and away. I'm sure that in the future, maybe in 2025, 2030, it will be different also for the EHL. Why not within 10 years, teams will be actually a city, like you have in the NBA. Maybe you will have some competitions between Brussels and Hamburg and Amsterdam and London, and no more Dragons, UHC and Bloemendaal, but real city. Why not? That's maybe within 10, 12 years. That's just out of the mind, out of the blue. But that's maybe the evolution, like it is in the Hill. You have some cities playing for the home and away, or I mean for the Hill in India. So that's maybe a possible evolution. It will be totally different from now, of course, but maybe with the example of the Hill, the example of the home and away, it will be different for the EHL.
EHL has brought us some truly innovations in the rules as well, like the self pass, which has been the most exemplary and the most beautiful rule change we've seen in recent times, I think. What they are experimenting now with in India in the HIL with the double goal for a field goal instead of a penalty corner. Is this something that you see evolving also towards an international rule, Jason?
I think back to when I sort of umpired my first Olympic Games. I was blowing offside. I was, anything, the ball was off this high off the ground, we free hit out, obstruction, you turn your backside around, it's a free hit. The game we watch today is completely different. And I think, other sports, I'm lucky enough to meet other sports CEOs, and they look at hockey and they, with amazement about how innovative we've been and how we've changed the rules and made our game faster, more exciting, more spectacular. So the answer to that question is that this game will continue to evolve. And what I like about the likes of the leagues you've discussed, and I've got to say EHL probably, at the forefront. I mean, they introduced video umpiring, for example, the self-pass. I mean, there's dozens of different examples. India is now playing with a point system. what I like about that is that you can spend some time incubating these ideas in these types of tournaments and then bring them to the FIH. And we have very strict processes around this. We have our rules committee, competitions committee, made up from continental federations all around the world. So it's not just a European idea or an Australian idea or something out of India. We then formalise that, and then we bring it in. Initially, we normally bring them into our regulations, and we might test that in an event, and then formalise it into the rules. So we have quite a disciplined process about bringing these ideas forward. But as I say, what I love is that we have these different competitions around the world that experiment with our game and continue to push it forward. It's very exciting.
I think we're coming towards the end also of the show. Floris, unless you have some other questions, you can interrupt me. But I would like to ask one final question to both Jason and Marc. Is what would be your ideal vision? Where would hockey be in 20 years of time? So really a long term.
Maybe if I start, I mean, I certainly have joined the organisation. I know our new president does, and the executive board. You know, we spent our first meeting discussing, you know, what's our vision, and our vision is to be a global game that inspires a whole generation of hockey players. And it's the coolest vision, I think, of any sports body, which is to say, you know, let's make this game marketable. Let's have our athletes who are earning income and careers. Let's have young kids who want to pick up a hockey stick and be part of this revolution. So for me, you know, this constant drive to inspire kids, athletes, fans, officials, sponsors, and TV broadcasters to be part of this game, and let's put it where it should be.
Marc, as a president of a national federation, what is your point on this?
What can I say with certainty is that I won't be president anymore within 20 years. That's the first point. But no, it's not far from what Jason said, of course. My only objective is to welcome all the players in Belgium who wants to begin hockey, young girls, young boys, and to have the best accommodations possible, the best fields, and also the best trainers and the best coaches. And above that, to explain to the parents, more maybe than to the young kids, what the values of hockey are. That's for me the only way to go, and we are now not so far from a 50-50 gender. We are above 40% now. We were less than 20% 10 years ago. So I think for 2020 we will be 50-50. A bit strange to say, but that will be the case. So what I want for hockey in Belgium within 20 years is not the problem is not the number of players, but the quality of the fields, the quality of the accommodations, and the quality of the trainers and the coaches, and to explain what hockey is, off the field and on the field.
Thank you.
Actually, no, that's our mission now, and we have to go on like this. It's a never-ending story. That's what we have to do. That's what the leagues are doing in Belgium. That was the federation is doing in Belgium. Is to go on and to develop. If at one we're just here to manage, then we go behind. We go backwards. We have to develop financially on a good basis, but we have to go on in the development of our sports.
Floris, any last questions from you for those two gentlemen?
Not really. I hope to see them as soon as possible to have a drink or something and to discuss this a bit more, of course. And I wish them a very nice day ahead. So.
Okay, well, gentlemen, thank you very much. I think we've gone over our time a little bit, but okay, if you're talking about the future of hockey, it's really difficult to limit it in time. We're all passionate about hockey, so we like to talk about it. But thank you very much for your time today and for the explanations and your views on the future of hockey.
Thanks for tuning in to Studio Hockey. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. And as always, enjoy your hockey. Bye-bye.